Welcome to the latest podcast of FJP Investment. Today we're going to analyse some top tips for UK property investors. According to figures from the Office of National Statistics, over the last decade or so, the average cost of a house has increased by 50%, even with the recession in 2008, which did indeed see property prices fall. So if you want to be one of the ever-growing breed of private rental sector landlords, the latest figures show that there's 1.75 million of those, what do you need to know? Listen on, we've got 6 top tips for UK property investors to consider. Number 1, know who your target tenant is. There's no point buying the smallest or biggest property you can find simply because you like the look of it. If you are looking to attract solos or young couples, then a 1 or 2 bedroom flat or a home may typically suit their needs. Alternatively, if you're investing in a student town, then you may be considering a large property in order to house multiple tenants. Number 2, consider the location. At this point, you should also consider alongside knowing who your tenant is. If you are looking to attract commuters, for example, or property within walking distance, perhaps to the railway station, and with a quick commute to the nearest large town, you may consider to be more attractive and therefore easier to let. Similarly, if you're looking to attract a family, you'd need to be looking for properties in the catchment area of good local schools. Basically, think about who your target tenant is and what that target tenant would want from that area. Number 3, hands-on or hands-off. If you aren't investing locally, then it is likely you will need to employ a lettings agency to manage the property on your behalf. If you are investing close to you, consider whether you want to be a hands-on landlord or even pay an agency to do it. Whilst managing your property can mean cost savings, lettings agency fees, they'll typically charge between 10 to 15% of rental income. Do bear in mind that you'll have to make sure you keep up to date with the ever-changing landlord legislation, and if you don't, you could be fined, as well as potentially getting calls at 3 a.m. to change the light bulb. Number 4, very important, do the maths. Buying a property isn't just about raising a deposit and then making the monthly mortgage repayments, hopefully which your rental income would cover. You need to factor in other costs with the property, such as surveyors' fees, solicitors' fees, the creation of the contracts and inventories, stamp duty, land tax. Remember, any additional UK property you now buy will attract an additional stamp duty tax at 3% on top of the standard rate if you already own a residential UK property. Of course, the cost of furnishing, landlord insurance. You're going to need empty property insurance if the property is standing empty whilst you redecorate or find a tenant. Letting and management agency fees, ongoing maintenance, tax, etc. All of these costs can mount up into a very pretty sum. So make sure that your expected rental income will easily cover any outgoings. Plus, you also need to factor in periods when the property may be unoccupied and therefore not bringing you any income. Number 5, don't forget your obligations as a landlord. Whether you are using a management agency or self-managing your investment property, you cannot get away from landlord's obligations. As a landlord, you have a duty to keep the property in which your tenant resides safe and healthy. The government has a number of obligations that you, as a landlord, need to fulfill. So whilst this list is not exhaustive and may apply only in some parts of the UK, it is important that you make sure you understand exactly what your obligations are. So for example, you need an annual boiler and central heating check carried out by a gas-safe registered engineer. You need to have carbon monoxide detectors in rooms with a usable fireplace or wood burner to ensure you have a smoke alarm fitted on every floor. You need to make sure all the furnishings, the furniture, the supply that you supplied, they're safe, from fire. There's also rules and regulations laid out by the Health and Safety Executive that you would need to comply with. So if you're planning to self-manage your investment, then of course keep on top of legislation. Sign up to a few landlord websites such as Landlord Zone, because quite simply failure to not comply, even if you genuinely are unaware of a particular piece of legislation, could not only see you face a hefty fine, but could invalidate any property insurance you have. And number 6, I think this is possibly the most important, is that you're realistic. Finally, do remember that with all investments, if things don't go to plan, you could end up getting out less money than you initially put in. And if you have an emergency and need access to your capital fast, typically you may find it hard to get your money out quickly. So if you understand the risks involved, you could find that investing in UK property is a satisfying, financially rewarding business. Hopefully these 6 ideas, these 6 property tips will help you make an informed decision as to whether it is something that you want to do. For more information about investing in property both here in the UK and also overseas, please visit the website www.fjpinvestment.co.uk.